It is 5 o'clock somewhere, and you've tuned in to Season 3, Episode 6 of BRC, the third and final part of our 3-part miniseries on location in Washington State. For those of you who'd like to watch this episode, I highly recommend it. You can view Season 3 on our website, YouTube, Spotify, whiskeynetwork.net, and Zencastr. I'm Carrie Moynihan, and in today's Tales from the Still, I sit down with co-founder Andrew Faircock and his distiller Joe Bennett at the Old Soldier Distillery to taste through their core lineup. Then later in the show, Andrew takes me on a private tour of the distillery. So kick off your shoes, pour yourself a dram, and join me for this episode of Barrel Room Chronicles. Did you know that April is National Testicular Cancer Awareness Month? And that one man every hour, every day, is diagnosed with this cancer? In fact, testicular cancer is the most common form of cancer amongst men aged 15 to 35. Because of this, our friends over at Manscaped.com have partnered with the Testicular Cancer Society to help spread awareness for men's health and early cancer detection. Gentlemen, please visit manscaped.com/TCS so you can learn how to perform simple, routine self-checks at home. In addition to providing the right tools and solutions for comfortable and easy grooming, Manscaped is committed to raising awareness and giving support to fighters, survivors, and families impacted by this cancer. That is why they are donating $50,000 to the Testicular Cancer Society. Help save lives. Go to manscaped.com/TCS now. And while you're there, grab 20% off plus free shipping by using code BarrelRoom. Don't wait. Learn how to check for early detection today. Gentlemen, hello. It is wonderful to be here.
Hello. How are you?
So we're in Washington State, which is, I'm loving the weather because I'm in LA and it's way too hot.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm here at the Old Soldier Distillery. See, I can't even say it. Tongue-tied. Don't know why. Didn't even start drinking it. Anyway, I'm here with the Old Soldier himself. Andrew, tell me why you, Andrew and Joe. And let's hear your whiskey journey from the beginning. You were a soldier.
Oh, my.
And now you're a distiller. Tell me, how did that come to be?
My great-great-grandfather was a quartermaster sergeant in the Civil War.
Wow.
Part of his job was providing rations for the troops, and in the 1st Delaware, that was 3 ounces of 130 proof every day.
Wow.
Yeah, and then they'd give him a rifle and tell him to charge.
Liquid courage there.
Yeah, whiskey and guns.
Yeah.
So
great combination.
Yeah.
Don't try this at home.
We're professionals.
That's right.
So that's a long time ago, but we make an 1860 style whiskey like he made.
Wow.
So we don't filter it, we don't color it, we do nothing to it that wouldn't have been done in the 1860s. I may or may not have been the largest distiller in Saudi Arabia during the Desert Storm, but I would never necessarily admit to that. But the Army said we couldn't bring alcohol in theater, but they didn't say we couldn't make it there.
Wow.
So some of what we did over there was for morale purposes. And so when we left there and came back here, I retired in 2010. And basically my wife said I was grumpy for not having something to do and that I needed to go get a job. And
nice.
So decided we'd go and make grandpa-style whiskey. And that was in 2016, I think it was. And so we've been working here ever since, making our whiskeys and bourbons, and a couple of flavored products because the new age is a little different.
Yeah.
And this guy over here sold me my first bottles. He was working in a auction warehouse.
Oh, nice.
And, we had some damaged freight that I bought from him, and we hit it off as friends. And I told him a long time ago, I said, can't afford you, but I want a guy like you to work for me. And 9 years later, it became...
8, 9 years, yeah, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So after pandemic, I hadn't seen Andy in 2 or 3 years even. And I was like, I'll check on the distillery. How are they doing down there? And so I just kind of came in here, I think it was like a Friday. And I was like, hey, how's it going? What's going on? And Andy goes, I was going to put together a team, actually. I have these 6 positions I need people that can do. Can you do any of those? And I looked at it and I said, I'll do 1 through 5.
Nice.
And so that's what I do here, is 1 through 5.
Yep.
Who does 6? Are you 6?
6 is, 6 is
5.5.
actually. Technically, his daughters do the social media, kind of.
Yeah.
That was 6. And I was like, I've never done that stuff, but now I'm kind of doing that stuff. So.
Same.
Yeah.
I need to do better at that stuff.
Yes,
it really
you
does
do.
help the podcast when you do better at social media.
I imagine with podcasts it's much more important, but it's advertising.
It is advertising. It's advertising.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, too.
It really is. Like, it doesn't seem like that much, but there's a lot that goes on.
Yeah. Okay, so you started working here then what year?
So May of this year will be 2 years that I've been
Okay.
doing this. And I had no whiskey experience or distillery experience or anything like that beforehand. So everything has been taught in this distillery.
Wow.
And, by Andy. So
Pretty intensive course.
Yeah. And when you were doing moonshine overseas, did anyone teach you how to do it, or you were self-taught yourself?
Well, remember I told you about my great-great-grandfather?
Yes.
My great-grandfather may have been involved in Scranton, Pennsylvania in Prohibition.
Oh.
And my great-uncle was still alive when I was a young man. I carried a few bags of grain in my day.
I see. Okay. So long history. Very
Yeah,
nice. Very nice.
My wife sometimes tells me if they cut me, I'll bleed bourbon.
That could be.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it could be.
Really sucks
Stranger
if the
things.
cops pull you over.
Yes. Well, that's when you just flash your fancy stuff
Permit,
that you're.
yeah.
Yeah.
right. Now I can carry it
Yeah.
on me.
He was telling me earlier, for those of you at home, that he has this
Agent's license.
agent's license. So when he gets pulled over with an open bottle, he just flashes his little license and good to go.
Well, we got to do tastings, and we can't tape it up each time we go from restaurant to restaurant.
Not in the
state
same day.
recognizes
You
that.
you
Yeah.
run out of tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and shot
Especially-
glasses.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's fun. Maybe I should. No, I would be too dangerous if I was able to get that now. Okay, so what has been your favorite process when you said, okay, when your wife said, go do something fun, did you immediately say, I know what I'm going to do?
Yeah, actually,
Or were you already doing moonshine at home and you said, well, let's make it bigger?
my wife wandered downstairs where the girls' bedrooms were. All the girls had gone to college, and she has a really good sense of smell. And she came and she goes, do you smell something yeasty? And I said, no. And so she starts sniffing around, and she opens up my daughter's closet, and there's two 55-gallon Huffy totes just fermenting away. And so that's how she found out about what I was thinking about doing. And
You had to practice first.
well, research, yeah, because we wouldn't do anything illegal.
Right.
But yeah, so that's how I started playing again. And I do have, we own a cottage that my family's owned since 1898.
Oh, wow. Here in Washington?
No, it's in the Poconos in Pennsylvania.
Oh, nice.
And so there's a lot of interesting little tidbits from his history. I actually have his Civil War belt buckle over here, which I think is kind of cool.
Oh, wow.
But so it kind of, I'd love to take credit for what we do, but I really can't because there's someone who's gone before. And so I tell people we follow Grandpa's lead, and, you know, I think we do pretty good. We've certainly got a few awards to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about where you've taken the distillery since you opened it to now. How many expressions do you have? And we'll start there. How many expressions do you have, and how long has it been? What was the process it took to get the place open to here?
The federal government doesn't want people getting into this business license-wise, so they make it kind of difficult. It takes anywhere from about 8 months to a year to get your license. But
Which
before
is
you can apply,
really good aging time that's wasted.
yes, and not only that, and before you apply, you have to have your equipment, you have to have it set up, you have to pay rent on everything, and you're looking at a year before you'll get your federal permit. And once you get that, then you need to apply to the state, and you do it all over again for another year. So it took about 2 years to get us set up. We found a facility. We have some lovely landlords, and when we were looking at places, I said to them, I said, how would you feel about a distillery in your building? And she was very funny. She goes, well, as long as it's not a pot shop. I said, okay, that works.
That's cute.
So I know people can't see it, but the whole facility when we came in here was just a bunch of pillars and an open space. So we built the walls, put in the windows, brought in our facility, did the electrical work ourselves. This is all paid for by myself and my partner, who has since retired, and we used our military pensions to do it.
Wow. So you have to name it with a soldier in the name.
Absolutely. And I tell people all the time, I said, you might see some used stuff in our shop, but we're probably the only distillery you'll ever meet that has zero debt. And that worked out really well. So for the first 2 years, we couldn't make a drop.
Right.
And then the next 2 years, we had to wait for the very first product to come out. So we bought these little itty-bitty 5-liter barrels.
Okay.
And so we had this rack of little 5-liter barrels because it ages quicker.
Right.
Just so we'd get something available. And
Do you still have that rack?
no, but what's funny is we have bottle number 2 over there.
Okay.
We opened bottle number 1 a little while ago, and my partner and we tried it, and he looked at me and goes, "Man, we sucked." so
Yeah, that new make it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, and we talked earlier about clear alcohols, because most distilleries will do a bourbon and a gin, etc. We never did that. We always just did whiskey and bourbon.
It's amazing that you were able to afford that, because everyone's like, well, once you get your permits and stuff, then you got to wait 3 years for the bourbon to mature. So in the meantime, we did gin and vodka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of the basic program for most distillers. But like I said, we both had our pensions, and we were very lucky. And of course, I told you earlier, I have a brilliant wife with lousy taste in men, so she covered a lot of the debts while I was trying to make this thing start.
Fantastic.
And, yeah.
She must really love you.
Well, she's put up with me for 33 years, but the good part about that is it's on film, so now she knows I praised her. This is good.
Yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
Everybody on social media, bump it up.
Yeah.
So Joe, what made you decide you wanted to come in and go from a place that sold bottles
So
to...
I wasn't even working at the auction when I came here.
Okay.
I've spent the last decade basically slaving away in the warehousing industry.
Oh.
I've had a couple of really good employers, but no really good jobs,
Got
if
it.
that makes sense.
Yep.
Usually it's the bosses hampered by
Well, it's
their
usually the
bosses.
other way around. You find a great job, and then it's got a bad...
Right, exactly.
So you had some good bosses.
Yeah, I've had some great bosses that were limited by their bosses more than anything else. And so when I get to the point in an industry where I'm like, there's nothing else for me here, it's time to move on. After 8 years of warehousing, you get kind of tired of it. But I'm really good with logistics. And so here we've got all kinds
that
of
right.
little things to track. 150 barrels, the age of everything we've got, the grains, the water, all that stuff. And so that's what I'm really good at, is spreadsheets.
Number 1 through 5.
And 1 through 5, that's right. I believe 1 was tracking that stuff because that was his
Yes.
partner, Rodney, used to do our taxes and the spreadsheets and all that stuff.
Oh, so he doesn't do anything anymore.
No, he's
not-
retired.
Retired. Okay, so you were working in warehouse for 8 years.
So I've never worked for Amazon, but I have a good idea of what it feels like.
Okay.
What I usually tell people.
Nice.
Or if you've bought a Samsung appliance in the last 5 years, I might have touched it, that kind of thing too. So I learned how to take large quantities of stuff and categorize it, organize it, be able to track it without having it be a huge problem for everybody involved.
Right.
And so with this place, it was a fantastic fit because it's a very small operation, which means there's not a whole lot going on with it, but at the same time, the stuff we have is very important. And because it's just Andy and I, the way we do things is how we want to do things. And I can't count how many jobs I've had where the biggest thorn is that the person who made the process isn't the one that does the process.
Right.
Here, we make our own process. Every step of the way is, well, let's do it this way. Let's try it this way this time. Let's see if this is different. Let's see what happens, because maybe it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
And so we get to do that. Like, because we're such a small operation, we're not structured. We got to do this. We got to worry about this. We got to worry about that. It's much more like relaxed and freeform as far as all that goes. And so for me personally, what like excels for me here is that Andy knows I'm capable, knows, hey, I need this done. Joe, can you do that? Can you look at this? Come back with me some feedback, and we'll tackle the problem together.
Nice.
Yeah.
I joke that the only thing I don't do is make final decisions, but Andy usually chimes in, but you weigh in on them. And it's very true. Like,
Joe and I spend a lot of time talking about how to do things, not necessarily the production process, but a better way to do them.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in the military, I always looked at it as much more of a collegial effort. So I think it worked out really well for Joe because he doesn't feel like he's a cog in a wheel.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
No, that's really accurate.
I hate that feeling.
Yes. When I know that I'm
Gets a
just
little
an
rough on the
expense
back,
on a
too.
spreadsheet somewhere,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, here, that would never be the case. You know?
That's great. So how many expressions have you made since you started the distillery?
Well, we've made a lot, but some of them didn't work out very well. We do 5 right now.
Okay.
We do a raw whiskey, which interestingly enough, women buy more than men, which I found really interesting.
Oh, that's cool.
We do a traditional whiskey. We do a bourbon, which are both 1860 style, like my grandfather made. And then we make something called Bourbon Santos, which is, it's billed as a raisin bourbon. It's so much more than that. It starts like a bourbon, it ends like a port, and it
Wow.
finishes figs and raisins and citrus notes.
So how do you make that? Or are you not allowed to say?
I'm not allowed to say.
Not
Well,
allowed to say.
I'm the one that determined because I
Right.
developed it,
Right.
but we do not talk about how we make it. And then we make a butterscotch whiskey, which is, it's a dessert in a glass. And so those are the ones we're currently making. We're working on a black pepper bourbon.
Okay.
We're looking into a mulled bourbon for the holidays.
Oh, nice.
That's going to be kind of fun.
Single malt.
Yeah, we just started doing our single malt.
Music to my ears.
Well, a little bit later, we'll go and pop the bung and you can smell it. It's
Oh, yeah.
going to be phenomenal. Has nice peach notes to it. And it's
Oh, really?
yeah.
Nice.
And then we actually have a friend of ours, a company called Narrows Brewing. They called us up one day and said, hey, we got 1,000 gallons of beer we don't know what to do with. Do you want it? Yeah. So
Why did they want to get rid of their beer?
Well, because it was a summer beer that they did, and their distributor said, hey, I can't move any more of the summer beer right now. And so they needed to use the tank. And we took it, and we distilled it into whiskey. So it's a
Nice.
5-malt whiskey. And that's not a regular thing, but next Christmas is going to be a great party down at the brewery. You should come back for it.
Great. Sounds good.
Yeah, we're going to have Narrows beer and Narrows whiskey.
That's awesome.
So we're working on a couple things, but right now we do those 5 expressions.
Okay. And then, so everything basically is a bourbon except for this new single malt?
Well,
Or starts as a bourbon mash?
they're all whiskey.
Okay.
They're just...
It's the same mash except the single malt. That,
Okay.
that is a
Yeah.
correct statement, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because all bourbons are whiskeys, but not all whiskeys are
Right.
bourbons. So.
Correct.
But everything we're doing
I'd be
right
surprised
now.
how many people don't know that.
Really?
People are like, oh, I thought you liked whiskey, not bourbon. I'm like, bourbon is a whiskey.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you liked scotch, not whiskey. I'm like, scotch is whiskey.
Yeah. Well, we do have one other thing we're working on that I'm already authorized to make. We're working on a apple schnapps.
Ooh.
But it's not the lollipop liquor schnapps like you get here in the States. It's 70 proof,
Wow.
and it's the way my grandmother made it in Germany. So.
Getting all the grandparents'
I have
recipes.
a lot of people that like to play with alcohol in my family. It's a little weird, but
Interesting.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Wow. So so when are you starting that project, or have you already?
It's actually fermenting now.
Oh, nice.
And I've made it before, but it was a test batch. This is going to be a second test batch, and then we'll go into production on it next year when the apples are fresh.
Fantastic. And do you get the apples here in Washington?
We do. We like to work with Treetop, which
Okay.
is the farmers co-op out of Selma,
Yeah. I think it's-
Washington, because they do a 3 blend of apples that are really good. And just as a side note, if you want to try a really good drink, get some hard cider,
Okay.
16 ounces of hard cider, and put a shot of whiskey into it like you would an old Boilermaker.
Okay.
It's phenomenal. Really good.
That's good. All right. So let's tell me what you think the 5-year plan is for this place.
Keep the lights on.
Okay.
I'm 60 in January. And eventually, when I'm ready to take more time, I think Joe's going to wind up stepping up, and his
You have to do
wife-
1 through 6 then.
Well,
I'll
yeah.
have to do 7 as well. So.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think he's going to recruit his wife to come in here and work with him, because she's a hardworking kid, and I like her a lot. So, and then for me, I just get to come in occasionally and do tours and come up with new drinks and generally be annoying.
Okay.
But he's used to it.
I want to get a big picture that's the founder's picture, him in a black suit for no reason.
Good luck with that.
So where can people find your whiskeys if they want to purchase?
Well, we work here, but we also are in Total Wine on the I-5 corridor in Washington.
Okay.
We just registered for Florida.
Great.
And so hopefully we'll have 28 Total Wines in Florida if they accept us in all their stores. And then the next target would be Texas and then California. Just kind of do the rim, and then we'll shoot cross country
Nice.
from there. So it really is a question of developing a business that supports that kind of shipping and marketing. My partner and I used to joke with each other and say, sooner or later we're going to have to treat this like a business.
Yeah.
And so Joe's been really instrumental in that. I don't want to say too much nice about Joe, it'll go right to his head.
Oh, yeah, well.
Yeah.
Coming up, I'll taste through the Old Soldier core lineup and get a sneak peek of the distillery tour.
Unleashed Coffee is a farm-to-cup adventure like no other. Step into a world where exceptional flavors, tantalizing aromas, and rich mouthfeel take you on a journey from your kitchen to the picturesque coffee plantations at origin. At Unleashed Coffee, we believe in fostering connections between coffee lovers and the hardworking farmers behind each bean. Join the journey through our coffee subscription program and gain access to our exclusive online community, connecting you to fellow enthusiasts and the producers of your morning brew. To help you extract every nuance of flavor from our beans, take part in our on-demand coffee brewing courses right in the comfort of your own home. If you are seeking B2B coffee solutions that go beyond just beans, our comprehensive wholesale packages cater to the diverse needs of mobile carts, farm stands, restaurants, cafes, retail shelves, and more. Look no further than Unleashed Coffee to quench your thirst for quality coffee. Use coupon code COFFEEBRC at the checkout to receive 10% off your first purchase at unleashedcoffee.com.
Okay, so now we have this beautiful array of booze in front of us and these wonderful stoppers. Tell me a little bit about the stoppers well, actually first, which one was the first one you did and what's part of your core line?
Well, initially we made Grandpa's style whiskey, which are these three.
Okay.
So this is what you would get if you were a private in the first Delaware in the Civil War.
Okay.
Because they didn't have time to age it. So it was raw whiskey.
Okay.
This is not moonshine. Moonshine's a state of mind. It's not a product.
Right.
Moonshine's anything that's fermentable that you can ferment and make alcohol out of would be classified as moonshine, and it was done at nighttime.
So it's new make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, is they knew federal officers didn't want to work when they wanted to be home with their families at night. So by making it at nighttime, by the light of the moon, it became moonshine.
Interesting.
So this is just a white whiskey, unaged, straight from the still, before we put it in the barrel.
Okay.
And then later on, when he had time, the whiskey and the bourbon were just aged
And
product.
that's these two.
Yeah. And
Okay.
what's really cool, if you want to see it, matter of fact, Joe, you want to grab that
the bottle.
Prohibition bottle?
Ooh.
My wife, I don't know where she finds this stuff, but she got me a bottle from Prohibition.
Wow.
And back during Prohibition, whiskey was considered medicine.
Yep.
So you notice it says Old Granddad Finest Medicinal Whiskey?
Yep.
Okay. Well, back in the day, there were doctors, just like there are some doctors today, that would, for a fee, prescribe you certain medications. You know, oxycodone was a big deal back recently, and back then, whiskey was.
Right.
So since they didn't have, like, the ability to look up whether or not you had a prescription, the doctors very, very thoughtfully put glue on the back of the prescription labels.
Oh, wow.
And that's a prescription from Prohibition for the guy who owned this bottle, and it says 3 ounces a day.
Wow.
So he could walk around with this in his pocket during Prohibition, and he wouldn't get in trouble. And this is actually an original from Prohibition.
That's really cool. All right, so did he make the whiskey first? I'm assuming he made the whiskey first before the bourbon, since
Yes.
bourbon has to be aged longer.
Yes, the white whiskey was what he made when he was a quartermaster sergeant.
Did he have a distillery after the war?
No, but he was a physician.
Oh, he was. That's right.
So
Okay.
physicians a lot of times made their own
So he could make
medicinal
some of
brews.
these
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
All right.
He didn't have a company for it. He probably did it just in his
Right.
barn.
All right, well, let's taste this white whiskey.
Okay. So, interestingly enough, most of the time when you see in the movies moonshine, there's always somebody going, "That's smooth." It couldn't be further from the truth
Right.
for a raw whiskey.
Right.
So this is 100 proof, but you're going to get corn
Here we
and
go.
butter
Ooh, really?
and
Butter.
heat. It almost has the same flavor as like a Jelly Belly, popcorn Jelly Belly.
Oh, I do smell the Jelly Belly, the butter Jelly Belly. The butter popcorn jelly bean from the Jelly Belly factory.
I'm not supposed to taste this, so just pretend it's research.
Why aren't you supposed to taste it?
Well, I'm working.
But that's your job, though, is to...
And it's not going to... A little heat.
It's a little hot, but all those flavors that are. That's really good new make.
Isn't that fun?
Oh, and you sell the white whiskey, right?
We do, and like I was telling you earlier, we sell more of that to ladies than we do to men.
That's really good.
Yeah. Now, what's fun about that too is if you make pie crusts. Little known fact: back in the day, the women used to use clear whiskey to make their pie crusts.
Instead of what?
Well, when you make a crust, you put water into it, but you want as little water as possible to make the pie flaky.
Okay.
Well, with this at 50%, by the time it goes in the oven, it's already lost 50% of its liquid.
Okay.
And it makes the pie crust flakier.
Interesting.
That and my grandmother liked to, little on the side. You know.
Yeah, there you go.
Did I tell you my parents were really strict? I wasn't allowed to drink till I was 13. It's terrible. I was allowed to drink when they passed the law saying it would be 21 again. And in New York State, they upped it.
And then they lowered
each
it,
year.
yeah.
But my birthday's 2 weeks after it would up each year. So I had to buy December 30th my stock to get me through January 17th.
That's terrible.
Well, the next one you're going to try is that same product at 120 proof after it's been aged for several years in an American white oak barrel. This particular batch is 3 years, 9 months.
Okay.
And
So
it's
it is
going to be
a bourbon.
Yep, and it's nicely oaked, and you'll get vanillas and caramels and maybe a little cherry on the side. And some people pick up a little cinnamon.
I can't really smell this one as much. I think my nose is broken. I've been smelling too much this week. Oh, that's very nice. That's very smooth. Probably that's why I can't smell it. It's not hitting my nostrils like pow. And this is your great-great-grandfather's recipe? Mm-hmm. The mash bill is? Mm-hmm. And the type of barrels? Or, I mean,
Well, the
all
hard
oak
part
barrels,
is there's
but-
not a lot of white oak in Pennsylvania anymore.
Right.
So we get our barrels made on the northern tier in Wisconsin and Minnesota. Up north, you have harsher winters, and you have different nutrients in the soil. So the flavor profile in the wood is very different than, say, if you got something from the Georgia area. And since the winters are harsher, the pores and the grain is tighter.
Okay.
So it takes a little longer for the transfer of flavors from the wood to the liquor. So we stick to the northern tier because Pennsylvania has some pretty harsh winters.
Yeah.
And we wanted to try and replicate that as much as possible.
Okay. Well, it's very tasty.
Well, thank you.
Okay, let's try great granddad's third
And
recipe.
the next thing will be our traditional whiskey. We tell everybody all the time, it's unfiltered. It's a natural whiskey. It's the way it was made in the 1860s.
So it'll have a little cloudiness.
Yes, and it's a little cloudy, and people tend to buy with their eyes. That's a marketing thing.
Yeah.
But I tell people all the time, if you don't want cloudy whiskey, the liquor store's a mile and a half down the road. You can buy whatever you like.
Yeah. But I mean, here's the little known fact for the regular buyers, the cloudiness is a flavor profile.
It is.
So when you
Mouthfeel.
clear it out to make it prettier, you also take away, strip some of the flavor.
Yes, ma'am.
So-
I love that you know that.
Well, I better. I shouldn't be doing the show if I don't.
I actually had somebody on the tour last weekend that commented, I love the mouthfeel because you guys don't filter it.
Yeah.
Just that it's such a richer flavor in your mouth. And I was like, yeah, that's part of why we
And
do it.
when you do a small thimble size like this, you can't tell it's cloudy.
Nope.
Oh, wow.
Nice and clean. It's kind of a springtime to it.
Yeah, and it's definitely got, that's that extra punch of flavor from the non-chill filter. That's beautiful. Okay, so then these two over here would be the ones that you've come up
That's
with yourself?
great-great-grandson's
Okay.
addition to the line. I did these so my wife would drink some whiskey.
Okay. And the
She doesn't-
teenagers?
she
Not the
doesn't-
teenagers. And the 20-somethings?
You know, it's amazing how many of my bottles disappear at home when my daughters went back to college. My wife is not a whiskey drinker, so when we went to a marketing convention one time and somebody asked her, which of his products do you like? She said, I don't really like any of them. It's like, honey, come
That's
here.
not helpful.
Yeah, come here, honey. This is a marketing thing, you know. So I decided that the best thing to do would be to make something that she liked.
Yeah.
And she has a book club.
Oh, good.
And they all know me, and they're ruthless about telling me what I do right and wrong. So I would make her something and send it with her to the book club, and the ladies would tear it up or say they liked it, and then I'd try again, and they're my tasting group. There's two. Originally, I made the Butterscotch for her first, and then I made Santos. But We're going to do it in reverse order.
Okay.
So Santos is actually a gold medal winner and a best in class winner, and
Is that the one with the trophy you showed me?
that's the one with the
Joe, would you hand us that trophy? I'm going to put that up here.
Yeah, the gold that we won was the John Barleycorn Society of Whiskey Writers and Critics. And this is actually something we're really fond of.
All right, John Barleycorn. Now, is that his name, John Barley?
No, John Barleycorn is actually an old song
Okay.
that talks about whiskey distilling, and it's pretty it was a
I thought it said
Scottish.
sick and elegant.
Not
It says
sick,
slick. Slick and elegant.
That's actually the critics' write-up of it.
That's great. Slick and
Which-
elegant. This works.
Yeah, I've
A
never
bourbon
heard.
with port, citrus, and floral notes.
Yeah, I've never ever
that.
heard a critic say things that nice about anything. I was tickled in my back teeth.
Well, I'm glad it was slick, not sick. 'Cause
Yeah, me too.
Like, that's sick. That would be okay, I guess.
So that's a big deal for us. That's an international competition, and it's pretty well documented as being some of the best whiskey critics in the country do the sampling.
Great.
And we've got, what do we got, about 11 awards between these
I think
five
so, yeah,
products so
something like
far.
that.
And we're just, like I said, we're tickled. And that's for this product that you're going to try here. And this is actually one of our best sellers. It's Joe's personal favorite.
It is, absolutely.
And so it's got a raisin flavor,
Sort of.
sort of. And you can't tell me the mash bill?
No.
No.
It's the same mash bill. I can tell you that actually.
Is it?
Why are
Oh,
you
okay. It's the
giving away
same
my
mash bill.
secrets, Joe?
Everything is the
So
same.
so the finishing is different.
Yes.
Maybe.
Sort
Well,
of.
it has to be. It can't be the same mash bill and not have. I mean, unless you're going to spike the tubs. Well,
We have a really good relationship with Harry Potter.
okay.
This is Bourbon Santos, and it's just really gentle. I really like it.
It's got a really great color too.
For me, this was the first time I had a bourbon that I was like, I could just sip this.
Yeah.
It's
This
got
is definitely a
that
sipping
little bit
bourbon.
of sweetness comes through, and it's just like, this is good all by itself.
Definitely has a little raisin on the aftertaste. On the finish.
You get figs, you get raisins, you get
Mm-hmm.
fruits, you get citrus, and it just keeps coming.
It's a good time of year for this. And probably the next one. 'Cause
It's actually pretty good warm too.
oh, I bet.
You know, you put it in a brandy snifter.
I could see this as like a muddled something with.
We do a drink called a Dirty Soldier,
Okay.
which is
Dirty Old Soldier.
this, maybe. What's really funny, I called it a Muddy Soldier, and my wife and her book club are like, oh no, it's got to be a Dirty Soldier.
Okay.
I said, why? He said, well, women don't want to walk in and order a Muddy Soldier. They want a Dirty Soldier. I said, yes, ma'am.
There you go. I like this book club. I don't even read books.
I'm
I'm
telling
gonna
you
have to
what,
join.
come on up. I'll introduce you to the girls.
Okay.
They're really funny.
So you can't tell me what kind of wood this is aged or
Well,
finished
basically,
in?
I mean, it is a bourbon, first
Okay,
and foremost. And then we have a process that we apply to it to turn it into Santos. But it is absolutely aged as a straight bourbon first.
Okay.
And then we do our magic to it.
Got it.
Unfortunately, you cannot patent a flavor.
Right.
So you have to either just be very close-lipped about what you do to make it so somebody can't do the same thing.
Right.
Witness all the cinnamon whiskeys that are out there now.
Right.
Because once somebody gets a hold of it.
So what made you call it Santos?
Well, my wife and I went back to Greece for our 25th anniversary.
Okay.
Brought our girls. And there is a winery on the island of Santorini, which means
I have been there. Beautiful
And
place.
They make a late harvest grape wine that they then age for 10 years in oak barrels on the cliffs. It's very good. It's rather like an ice wine.
Okay.
Really liked it, but it was bloody expensive. It's like $90 for 500 milliliters.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I bought 10 bottles.
Oh my.
Yeah, that was a rough day with the boss.
Yeah.
But when we ran out of it, I was complaining because you can't buy it in the States, and I really enjoyed it. And my wife, being the brilliant lady that she is, she said, well, you're a distiller. Go figure out how to make something that reminds you of this product,
go.
and then you'll never have... And I just looked at her and I said, yes, ma'am. And so we
there you go,
went into the
Santos.
lab and came up with Santos. So
Great.
it took, 18 months to do that? And Santos, therefore, is saint in
Yeah.
Greek and in Spanish.
Right.
So it just made sense to name it after what I was looking for.
Great. Okay, let's try this butterscotch.
This is dessert in a bottle. Okay, the butterscotch, was the first thing I made for her because I know she really likes butterscotch. Her grandpa used to give her Werther's Originals as a kid.
Okay.
And so now when she can actually say, I like this and that.
Great.
Yeah.
And I can see this too. I can definitely see it like as like a, as you were saying, hot, but I can see it as a like a hot toddy with a dash of cinnamon on top, maybe a little whipped cream.
I actually use it to cook.
Oh yeah, okay. See that?
I'll take red onions, mushrooms, and slice them up really thin and saute them with some garlic, and then add 2 shots of this. And a couple
This is
of pork
liquid
cutlets.
Werther's.
Isn't it?
That's fantastic.
100% candy.
It does taste like liquid candy for sure.
35% alcohol, somehow.
Did I tell you we brief all the women of childbearing age to be careful because it's been blamed for 8 pregnancies so far?
That's fantastic.
Yep. I had a lady come down, put her hands on her hips, and yell at me, I'm so mad at you. I said, what did I do? She says, I'm pregnant. I looked at her, I said, I didn't touch it.
I don't remember that night.
You know, hashtag not me. But we started keeping score. There's a little chalkboard over there with hash marks
Wow.
on it.
Okay.
Yeah. And we tell the young ladies if they get pregnant because they drank too much of this, they come down, put their very own hash mark on the board. And when the baby's born, we get to take pictures and they get a free bottle of butterscotch.
That's great. Love it.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Have any of them been born yet?
Yeah, I have.
So number 5 and 6 are twins.
Oh, my.
He came down the stairs. We're here to make our marks on the chalkboard. And I was like, I'm sorry, did you say marks? And she goes, yeah, we're having twins.
Well,
So
at least,
congratulations.
At least she didn't say triplets. Jeez.
Right, yeah. And about 3 months ago, I believe we had them down here. And Andy's got little photos of them. Tiny, tiny little babies. My goodness.
Yeah, little boy and a little girl, fraternal twins.
And those the only ones born so far?
Oh no, those are the
Those
ones
are
that
the
most
newest.
recently
I
born.
was going to say, those are the recent marks, yeah.
That's fantastic.
And the other girls and boys have been down individually. Number 3 has not shown up, so I think they were transferred.
Come on, number 3, get out here.
Yeah, I think they were transferred. They're a military couple.
Okay.
Yeah,
But,
which happens a lot out here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's fun because I think I was told one time that babies are the opinion that the world must go on. God's
Yeah,
opinion, the
yeah.
world must go on. And
That's a good saying.
yeah, and we have a lot of fun with it. And the girls think it's hilarious. We tell them we're cheaper than IVF. So
I always get a kick out of both sides of the couple. Sometimes the guy, no, we don't want that, or we do want that. And sometimes the girl, the same thing. We do want that, or no, keep that away.
That's great.
Just depends on the couple.
Tell me about these bottle toppers. Are these your bottle toppers?
well, this is from a company called Menagerie Wine Pours, and they recently came out with a whiskey, with a group of whiskey wine pours. So they have the little stopper,
Okay.
so that because with a bottle of wine they don't have that because you use the whole bottle.
Right.
This allows you to keep it on the bottle, and these are stainless steel. They're about $38 on the internet if you buy them. Through their website, etc. But we have a wholesale agreement with them, and we sell them for actually a little less.
Okay.
But they're really handy. They're so much better than those little plastic guys, you know. And they do some really neat designs. We have eagles, we have rams, all different kinds of
I
critters.
see an octopus over there.
Yeah, I really like the Welsh dragon that we have there.
It's a good shape, yeah.
Yeah, and they're really handy, and they're very nice, and they kind of dress up your bottles, you know.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, so we're real fond of those. We actually sell quite a few of those because people like them so much.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and actually, the Festival of Trees, one of the trees has our racehorse whiskey pourer on there, and that it fits in really well because it's an elegant little addition to your whiskey collection.
So one of the main reasons that the reason I found out about you guys is because you're contributing to this charity that my cousin is working on, and I heard that there's a Christmas tree thing going on, and there's some whiskey and bourbon and Kentucky themed, and they came to you. So tell me, what do you know about this charity, and what have you helped out with for this charity?
Well, Festival of Trees is a fundraiser for Marybridge Children's, and they decorate each department or each group of people that volunteer. They decorate a tree. They have a lot of fun things with it. It's almost like Christmas in a little confined space before Christmas that some of the generous people in Tacoma will bid unreal amounts of money on to support the hospital. Amusingly enough,
great.
your cousin and my wife work together.
That's great.
And my wife is an ID doc over there. And so Joy, your cousin, and my wife had a conversation, and my wife said, my husband owns a distillery. And so obviously we're all in, because my wife's a pediatrician and I love kids. My daughters laugh at me. I can't walk by a baby without checking them out, because they're just so great.
Well, and you've had kids, so.
Yeah, so this thing goes on every single year. It's a big deal, and they do beautiful, beautiful, beautiful trees. And they sell for a lot of money. So my wife said, hey, would you be interested? And I said, of course. It's for a really good cause. And
the cause is what? What does the money go towards?
Well, it goes towards Marybridge Children's and some of their research and operations, I think. And people come from all over the Western Washington area to tour and look at all the trees. There's like 30 of them usually. And the program is just such a neat way to get into the festive spirit. So we went through and said, okay, they wanted to do a Derby themed tree for, so bourbon, of course, is very high in the Kentucky Derby.
Yep.
And so we thought that maybe instead of a Kentucky whiskey, we'd enter a Pennsylvania bourbon, because, we got to have a little
of the heritage.
Yeah, little us time. So we donated some bourbon and some glasses in our whiskey pour. We have a racehorse whiskey pour that they really like. And because it's all to a good cause, it makes points with my wife too. I gotta, Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank
Joe,
you for coming.
If you could give away any more secrets about how you make these, let me know.
There.
I know. It's all right. Next time I'll come alone.
Right.
Anyway, thank you, gentlemen. It's been a great time. I love the tour, which we'll do in a second. It was great to be here. I love tasting all this stuff, and I wish you guys the best of luck in your growth.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was a lot of fun. So welcome to Old Soldier.
Thank you.
We've spent a little time in the tasting room. We're going to now go through and talk about how we make whiskey here. I think I told you before, unlike most distillers, we don't owe a penny to anybody. So
that's awesome.
Some of the stuff you'll see is old, but we have this great motto here: if it's stupid but it works, it isn't stupid.
It's not stupid.
Yeah.
To see the full Old Soldier Distillery tour, visit our Ko-fi site and become a member at www.ko-fi.com/BRC.
Well, thank you very much. Come back anytime.
All right.
I'm always good for 2 shots.
That does it for today's show. To read notes on this episode or learn more about our guests, please visit barrelroomchronicles.com. Want to interact with the show or have questions for our guests? Then ask them on our socials or send us an email. Or better yet, leave us a voicemail on our website. If you like what you heard, please rate and subscribe to the podcast. If you really liked it and you want to show your support, buy us a whiskey through our Ko-fi site at ko-fi.com/BRC or become an exclusive member of the Barrel Room Parlor. If you work in the whiskey or spirits industry or just have a deep passion for whiskey and want to share your spirits journey, register to be a guest through our website. Last but not least, please enjoy your spirits responsibly. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, Solanjava.
Barrel Room Chronicles is a production of First Reel Entertainment and is available on Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, Amazon, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.